Hello guys, for this time I would like to talk about the moon. Across the globe, sky watchers have been enjoying the stunning June full moon or strawberry moon. The moon became full at 3:12 p.m. Friday will be appear full into early Sunday morning. This moon is named Strawberry Moon as reference to the time of harvesting strawberries in North America, originally from Native American tribes who used the moon as an indicator of when the fruit would be ripe. Get set for the strawberry moon. Also note that a reduction in pollution as a result of the coronavirus lockdown will help sky watcher looking for the best possible view on the strawberry moon. In the current climate, a lower than average level of population combined with a good weather forecast means the view will be even clearer. The moon will affect the Earth ocean, and the extra gravitational pull means we should brace ourselves for some spectacular tides worldwide. Friday full moon was also a penumbra lunar eclipse for skywatch in Asia, Africa, Europe, and Oceania. In a penumbra lunar eclipse, part of the moon passes through the outer part of the Earth's shadow, the space agency. The super pink moon trails sky watcher. While sky watcher is places such as Malaga, Spain, and UK. So the strawberry moon in all its glory, rain and cloud in New York City obscure the celestial event on a Friday night. The moon, however, was clearly visible on Saturday. That the June full moon was also now historical as the mid-moon or honeymoon in Europe, made in an alcoholic drink from honey and water. Some writings suggest that of June was when honey was ripe and ready to be harvested from hives or from the wild, which made this the sweetest moon. Snow moon, known as one of the largest full moons of 2020, light up the sky. The Old Farmer's Almanac noticed that the name Strawberry Moon was used by very Algonquin tribe. The celestial event was also known as the Rose Moon in Europe. The June full moon may also be linked to the first honeymoon, according to the Old Farmer Almanac. In the past, June has been the most popular moon for wedding, leading some to suggest the moon honey cloud appearance in June was the origin of the honeymoon process. However, the most popular wedding in August, September, October, later research showed that the moon's color never did have anything to do with the expression. The brightest and largest object in our night sky, the moon, makes Earth a more livable planet by monitoring our home planet's movable on its axis. leading to the relatively stable climate. It also causes tides, creating a rhythm that has guided humans for thousands of years. The moon was likely formed after a Mars-sized body collided with Earth several billion years ago. Earth-Moon is the only place beyond Earth where humans have set foot so far. The Earth's only natural satellite is simply called the Moon because people didn't know other moon existed until Galileo discovered 4 hour moons orbiting Jupiter in 1610. In Latin, the moon was called Luna, which is the main adjective for all things moon related lunar, size and distance. With radius of 1079.6 miles equal 1737.5 kilometers, the moon is less than a third the weight of Earth. If Earth were the size of a nickel, the moon would be about as big as coffee bean. The moon is farther away from the Earth than most people realize. The moon is an average of 238,855 miles equal 384,400 kilometers away. That means 30 Earth-sized planets could fit in between Earth and the moon. The moon is slowly moving away from Earth, getting about an inch farther away each year. Orbit and rotation. The moon is rotating at the same rate that it revolves around our Earth, called synchronous rotation. So the same hemisphere faces Earth all the time. Some people call the far side and Mars and dash. The hemisphere we never see from Earth and M dash, the dark side. But that is misleading. As the moon orbits Earth, different parts are in sunlight or darkness at a different time. The changing illumination is why, from our perspective, the moon goes through phases. During a full moon, the hemisphere of the moon we can see from Earth is fully illuminated by the sun. And a new moon occurs when the far side of the moon has full sunlight, and the side facing us in heaven it is night. The moon makes a complete orbit around Earth in 27 Earth days and rotates or spins at that same rate or in the same amount of the time. Because Earth is moving as well and thus rotating on its axis as it orbits the sun and M dash. From our perspective, the moon appears to orbit us every 29 days. Now structures. Earth moon has a core, mantle and crust. The moon's core is proportionally smaller than other terrestrial bodies' cores. The solid iron-rich inner core is 149 miles or 240 kilometers in radius. It is surrounded by a liquid iron shell 56 miles or 90 kilometers thick. A partially molten layer with a thickness of 93 miles or 150 kilometers surrounds the iron core. The mantle extends from the top of the partial molten layer to the bottom of the moon's crust. It is most likely made of minerals like olivine and bauxite, which are made up of magnesium, iron, silicon, and oxygen atoms. The crust has a thickness of about 43 miles, equals 70 kilometers on the moon's near side hemisphere, and 93 miles, equal 150 kilometers on the far side. It is made of oxygen, silicon, magnesium, iron, calcium, and aluminum, with small amount of titanium, uranium, thorium, potassium, and hydrogen. Long ago, the moon had active volcanoes, but today they are all dormant and have not erupted for millions of years. Now formation. The leading theory of the moon's origins is that a Mars-sized body collided with Earth about 4.5 billion years ago. The resulting debris from both Earth and the impactor accumulated to form our natural satellite 239,000 miles, equal 304,000 kilometers away. The newly formed moon was in a molten state, but within about 100 million years, most of the global magma ocean had crystallized with less dense rocks floating upward and eventually forming the lunar crust. Now surface. With two spheres and atmosphere to impede impacts, a steady rain of asteroids, meteorites, and comets strikes the surface of the moon, leaving numerous craters behind. Tycho crater is more than 52 miles or equal 85 kilometers wide. Over billions of years, does impact have ground of the surface of the moon into fragments ranging from huge boulders to powder. Nearly the entire moon is covered by a rubble pile of charcoal gray, powdery dust, and rocky debris called the lunar regolith. Beneath is a region of fractures, bedrock referred to as the mega regolith. The light areas of the moon are known as the highline. The dark features, called Maria or Latin for seas, are impact basins that were filled with lava between 4.2 and 1.2 million years ago. These light and dark areas represent rocks of different composition and age, which provide evidence for how the early crust may have crystallized from a lunar magma ocean. The craters themselves, which have been preserved for billions of years, provide an impact history for the moon and other bodies in the inner solar system. If you look in the right place on the moon, you would find pieces of equipment like American flags and even a camera left behind by astronauts while you were there. You would notice that the gravity on the surface of the moon is 1/6 of the Earth, which is why in footage of moonwalks, astronauts appear to almost punch across the surface. The temperature reaches about 260 degrees Fahrenheit or equal to 127 degrees Celsius when it's full sun, but is in the darkness. The temperature plummets to about 280 degrees Fahrenheit or minus 173 degrees Celsius. Now, water on the moon. During the initial exploration of the moon and the analysis of all the return samples from the Apollo and the lunar missions, we thought that the surface of the moon was dry. The first definitely discovery of water was made in 2008 by the Indian mission, which detected hydrolyzed molecules spread across the lunar surface and concentrated at the poles. Missions USCHS Lunar, Prospector, LC-ROSS, and Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter have not only shown that the surface of the moon has a global hydration, but that there are actually high concentration of ice water in permanently shadowed region of the lunar poles. Scientists also found the lunar surface releases its water when the moon is bombarded by micrometeoroids. The surface is protected by a layer, a few centimeters of dry soils that can only be breached by large micrometeoroids. When micrometeoroids impact the surface of the moon, most of the materials in the craters is evaporated. The shock wave carries enough energy to release the water that is coating the grains of the soil. Most of the water is released into space. Atmosphere. The moon has a very thin and weak atmosphere called an exosphere. It does not provide any protection from the sun's radiation or impacts from meteorites. Magnetosphere. The early moon may have developed an internal dynamo, the mechanism for generating global magnetic field for terrestrial planets. But today, the moon has a very weak magnetic field. The magnetic field here on the Earth is many thousands of times stronger than the moon's magnetic field. Rings. The moon has no rings. Earth moon has no moons of its own. Potential for life. The many missions that have explored the moon have found no evidence to suggest it has its own living things. However, the moons could be the site of future colonization by humans. The discovery the moon harbors water ice and that the highest concentration occur within dark craters at the poles makes the moon a little more hospitable for future. In the past telescopic observation and operating, they found ice deposit on Mercury. It's like not a moon, but the new organisms that possibly the thick ice deposit also exist on the moon. So the lunar, so see that the poles of Mercury and the Moon are among coldest places in our solar system. Unlikely, Earth, Mercury and the Moon are rented such that their polar regions. The Sun never rises high above the horizon, such as impactors. Sun for the decades in the heaven postulate that so-called permanently settled regions so cold that any ice trapped within the potentially survive for billions of years. The Mercury with Earth-based radar, a signature charismatic thick, a pure ice deposit, and the environment, geometry, and ranging spaces image the ice deposit. The polar deposits to be dominated composed of water ice and extensively distributed in both Mercury North and South polar region. Um, whose the polar thermal environment are very similar to those of Mercury, found on a patch shallow ice deposit. So this understanding difference that they said the polar crater on Mercury and the Moon to delve into this difference between in two worlds. And Mercury and the Moon are scared by many impact craters. These craters from the meteorite of comet impact to the surface. The So that is the similar approximately 15,000 simple crater with the diameter ranging from 2.5 km to 15 km, about 1.5 miles to 9.9 miles on Mercury and the Moon. So they become up to 10% solar near to the North Pole of Mercury and the South Pole of the Moon, but not a North Pole of the Moon. The region that from ice is developed become or Mercury orbit around the Sun, but does not preclude that possibility that ice may be more with sight at the largest crater across the lunar pole. Additionally, unlikely Mercury, where the ice has been shown to be nearly pure, the deposits detected on the Moon are mostly light mixed with the regolith, possibility in layered formation. The typical age for the simple craters examined by the research indicate they could potentially accumulate ice that was later mixed with overlying regolith over long time scale. So the collected treasure through data that that the Moon alert about the moons, and when you look at the dusty white and gray surface of the Moon, it is hard to know exactly what you are looking at. Here the surface of its covering is much more colorful soil, sand, and rocks. So what is the Moon's pale surface hiding? So it's a lot of metal on the moon that was purposely thought, and so the moon surface, but also offer in a heat add to the way what is lying beneath. So the impact craters that the capacity to reveal that what a moon is truly made of deep down and offer researchers information that could hit and its origin. Substantial evidence points to the moon as a product of collision between Mars-sized protoplanet and young Earth, forming from the gravitational collapse of the remaining core of debris. However, so the bright plains of the moon surface, called the lunar highland rocks, contain smaller amount of metal-bearing mineral relative to the Earth. However, the composition reading from within deep chatter suggests that the surface is hiding its metal underground. Using the mini RP instrument on the LRO, the team measured that capacity, the material transit electricity, which is also a measurement of the metal presence. So the team found the craters between 3 mile and 12 mile weight at a consistent measurement, but the smaller craters were more metallic based on how large they were. It suggests that when you do the moon metallurgy is relatively uniform and potentially a lot more like Earth than had previously been assumed. This thing may support the theory that a moon was created after a collision between a young Earth and much larger object like another planet. In such a scenario, so a lot of Earth-like material in the moon's guts, so to speak. The team also the constellation scan crater in different areas to see just how similar they are, provided additional evidence to either support or dismiss one or more theories of moon motion. On July 3rd, the sky watcher, whose view low in the north is obstructed, might sound as wrong as Christmas in July, but already has passed in the lowest evening portion of the year, and it is gradually greatening altitude toward the coming fall and winter. Look for internal wedge shape low into the northwest this night. On Saturday, in July 4, is full moon. So this evening, the moon sign next to the handle of the Sagittarius teapot has sound above how much of the teapot you can through the moon. The moon will undergo a very slight vulnerable eclipse tonight for most of American, probably undetected light. The moon northern edge will skim through the out more paler right of Earth's shadow, with maximum eclipse coming at 12 in the morning, Sunday morning. So for much of West Coast, the moon at that time will be low in the evening timeline. Further east, South America, the moon will be higher in the dark sky. In the mid ellipse, the moon northern line will extend only in the third of the way across the Earth. Penumbra, traditionally a penumbral eclipse, is coincidence equidistributed unless a moon line reaches halfway across the penumbra. But telescopic photo, so they said bringing out the evidence of this even if you are it does. So today Earth is an aphelion. It is harvest from the sun for the year. We are one part in the 30 farther from the sun that person in January. On July 5, the moon hangs in the triangle under Jupiter and Saturn this evening. On July 6, Scorpius is sometimes called the Orion of summer, for it is brightness. It is blue-white giant star, and it is prominent red supergiant and but Scorpius passes a lot of lower across the southern sky than Orion's does. For those of us, the mid-northern latitudes, the mean it has only one really good evening month in July. Scorpius due south soon after dark. Before it is star, it's little lower toward to the southwest. In July 7, three double at the top of Scorpius. That of Scorpius nearly few vertical low of the three-star upper right of Antares. And July 8, at the end of a long summer swimmingly, check the sky low into the northwest and north. In this time of the year when the two brightest stars of summer, Arcturus and Vega, are equally high overhead, and the end of Tunis. July 9, 2020. After dark, the lowest star of the summer triangle shines high in the east southern. That is a time a good 3 or 4 first arm length lowest right of the bright. Before the waning, the blood moon rises in the late evening to light the sky. Look left and more than a face a farm later for the compact little constellation Didymus. On Friday, July 10, Jupiter and Saturnus rise in the twinless now. Mars is a fire beacon high in the south in the east down, and Venus faces just one from Aldebaran on Saturday and Sunday morning, July 11 and 12. See of the scan of 3 of the below. Quite often, with an impending eclipse of the moon looming, we are in as the moon will be eclipsed by the shadow of the earth. But the strict process, the earth casts not one but two shadows out into space. The most noticeable is dark, slender, tapering cone of darkness that extended out into space for some 857,000 miles or equal 1.38 million kilometers. It called the Umbra. During a lunar eclipse, wherever the Umbra falls upon the moon's surface, a hypothetical astronaut, that is, who might be located on a part of the moon, would see the Earth planetary cover the disk of the sun, and hence will be plunged into the darkness. Watching from here on the Earth, we would see the Umbra projected as a curved zone of darkness, dramatically cutting into the moon's face to the extent it appears as if some invisible monster was peering into the moon. Surrounding the umbra is the penumbra or partial shadow, also conical but much larger. The penumbra is simply the half shadow that lies outside every deep shadow, whether it is cast by the Earth or a house where our hypothetical astronaut positioned just outside of the edge of the umbra. So into the penumbra, looking up from the lunar surface, they would see the Earth covering all but a narrow sliver of the sun in the lunar sky. And looking in the all direction, the illumination of the lunar landscape would appear noticeable. The overall lighting coming from that remaining sliver of sunshine would be considerably dim than normal. And from here to Earth, looking up toward the moon, while we wouldn't see a sharp curve of darkness, rather we would notice that a part of the moon looks somewhat tarnished or smooth. That usually all that is noticed during most penumbral lunar eclipse, just a very subtle setting. The moon will skim partially through the southern part of the penumbra. That means the upper part of the moon will be inside the penumbra shadow. However, the geometric magnitude of this eclipse is listed as 0.3546. That means that just over 1/3 of the moon diameter will be inside of the so-called half shadow at the time of the maximum eclipse. So the lower 2/3 of the moon will be completely outside of the penumbral shadow. How about the upper third? Will we be able to notify any darkening? The answer is most definitely no. If our hypothetical on lunar surface in the region north of Mare Frigus, the Sea of Cold, you would see the Earth covering but 1/3 of the sun. But that would not have any noticeable effect of darkening the lunar landscape. Everything would look pretty much the same as it would without any of the sun being covered. In general, most people, don't notice the penumbral shadow project on the moon until at least 70% its diameter is covered. Some people who have a very accurate vision and better than average perception might notice sunlight shading with 50% of the moon inside the penumbra. Penumbra lunar eclipse will take over. However, on this occasionally the geometric magnitude will be 0.8285 or more than 4/4 of the moon's diameter will be inside of the penumbra at maximum eclipse, likely resulting in a noticeable shading of the upper portion of the moon. Propellant is the currency of space travel. The water ice indicated to be present on the moon could provide liquid hydrogen LH2 used as fuel and liquid oxygen LO2 used as oxidizer. Their value as propellant is tremendous in the context of LEO and even greater on the lunar surface. This potential water ice deposits also have immense value of water to drink, air to breathe, water to grow plants with, and water as radiation shielding. The supply and demand equation is unclear for a case lunar economy. On the supply side, there are no proven reserves of water ice on the moon. There are strong indications of water ice in the shadow craters of the moon's north and south poles, but there is no ground truth proof yet. A potential return on investment is uncertain in lunar exploration and research development of unproven surface of water ice. Even if water ice is confirmed, the initial cost of processing and delivering may make it challenging to make a near-term profit. On the demand side of the equation, there is no clear demand function. That is, there are no obvious customers. Therefore, there is widespread indifference in the business community toward the prospect of mining of proven lunar ice. Based on publicly available sources, an estimated 1.9 million kilograms of propellant is needed to fuel upper stage for outbound spacecraft assembled at 407 km circular orbits, or the approximate altitude of the International Space Station, to place crew on Mars. A potential solution to the market stagnation note above would be a well-publicized pathfinder campaign with the goal of enabling commercial partners of developer rockets. The potential scenario are plug-in drop tank technique on an option to refill used empty tank. This would increase the payload capacity available for delivery to Mars surface. This is like how a KC-135 refueling a B-52 in, but on the way to target, the stable carry much more target possible investment. Initial propellant for outbound spacecraft could be provided from Earth during pathfinder expedition, like initial supply brought to base camp for early expedition to submit. The initial step of this lunar exploration, pathfinder would be characterized like location of useful resources, principally water ice, which has been indicated to be potentially present in the permanently shadow craters of the south pole of the moon. As part of prospecting process, sample collection and drilling would occur using robotic rovers, possibly driven. Analyze sample could validate composition and suitably as a resource for the journey to Mars. The future navigation and surface development would require emplacement of surveying movement, a key branch to document events. So the moon formed a little later than previously assumed when a Mars-sized protoplanet was destroyed in a collision with the young Earth. A new body was created from the debris ejected during these collisions, which became a moon. So they have used a new numerical model to reconstruct the time at which the event occurred 4.425 billion years ago. The previous assumptions about the formation of the moon were based on the age of 4.51 billion years. That is 85 million years earlier than the new calculation referred. 4.5 billion years ago, the solar system was still chaotic. Earth was still growing to its present size, collecting matter in the form of what are referred to as planetesimals. This had previously formed in the disk of dust and gas orbiting the early sun. The young Earth consolidated, becoming ever hotter inside. Increasingly large part of the rocky mantle melted and formed a magma ocean. It is at this time that Earth gained the natural satellite that continues to orbit around it to this day. A massive cosmic collision between Earth and a protoplanet ejected rock from the young Earth. Eventually, this debris agglomerated to form a new planetary body, the Moon. In principle, so how the Moon formed, but not about the detail of the process, and especially not about the time at which it occurred. The result of the modeling suggests that the young Earth was hit by protoplanet some 140 million years after the birth of the solar system 4.567 billion years ago. It's happened 4.425 billion years ago with an asymptotically of 25 million years, and the Moon was born. At that time, Earth had just developed into the planets. During this development, the heavy metallic components sank to its center and formed a core of iron and nickel, which was surrounded by a thick mantle of silicated rocks. The mantle rocks become increasingly hot due to the process of accretion and the decay of radioactive elements. This allowed the separation of metal and silicates to take place in the Earth's interior within a few tens of millions of years. Planetary buoyancy caused the formation of the Moon. In this stage, Earth was hit by Theia, a protoplanet that was perhaps the size of Mars. Theia was one of the Titans in the Greek mythology and the mother of the Moon goddess Celeste. In the early days of the solar system, there would have been many bodies of this kind. Some were ejected from the solar system, while others were destroyed by collisions with other bodies. Theia, however, hit Earth and caused the ejection of such a large amount of materials from the planet's mantle that the moon was able to form from it. During this violent impact, the several thousand kilometer deep magma ocean formed. So traces of the may remain following this collision. The collision of the two bodies with its enormous energy is also vaporized a large amount of rocks from Earth's early mantle. This was ejected and collected in a ring of dust around Earth before it reassembled to form rocks. From this, the moon was formed in a short time, probably just a few thousand years. The oldest moon rocks is not old enough. So, however, they have not been able to date exactly, but none of the moon rocks brought to Earth by then, and then the calculations show that this most likely to happen at the very end of the Earth formation. It was not early Earth that had an ocean of magma. It is early out. Energy giant from accretion also led to the formation of magma ocean on the moon. The moon melted almost completely and similarly to Earth was covered by a magma ocean over 1,000 kilometers deep. This magma ocean quickly began to solidify and form a crust of floating, lightweight crystals at the surface. It is interfaced with the cold space. But under this insulating crust, which slowed down the further cooling and solidification of the magma ocean, the moon remained unmelted for a long time. So the magma ocean took crystallize completely, which is why they could not conclude when the moon originally formed. To calculate the lifetime of the moon's magma ocean, the model which for the first time comprehensively considered two processes involved in the consolidation of the magma. The result from the model showed that the moon's magma oceans was long-lived and took almost 200 million years to completely solidify into mantle rocks. Solidification model revealed the age of the moon and Earth. To determine the age of the moon, they calculated how to composite of the magnesium and iron rich silicate minerals that formed during the solidification of the magma ocean change over time. The composition of the remaining magma ocean as solidification progress. This finding is significant because it allowed to link the information of different types of rocks on the moon to a certain stage in the evolution of its magma oceans. By comparing the measured composition of the moon's rocks with the predicted composition of the magma ocean from the model, we are able to trace the evolution of the ocean back to its start point. The result, the moon was formed 4.425 plus minus 0.025 billion years ago. The moon's exact age is in remarkable agreement with the age previously determined for the for, for the formation of the Earth's metallic core with the uranium lead method. The point at which the formation of planet Earth was completed. This is the first time the age of the moon can be directly linked to an event that occurred at the very end of the Earth formation, namely the formation of the core. Even though Jupiter is way out in the outer solar system, you can still see it is for larger moons. They are often called the Galilean moons to honor. So from the Earth, through a small telescope or strong binoculars, they look like tiny spur-like pinpricks of the light. But you will know they are not stars because you will see them stretch out in the line that bisects Jupiter, depending on what sort of optical aid you use. You might see just one moon or see all four. If you are using a telescope and you see fewer than four moons, that might be because a moon is behind or in front of Jupiter. If a moon is in front of the planets, you can sometimes see the moon as shadow on Jupiter cloud tops. Etched in the brain cell is an image of sharp, gleaming disc striped with two dark belts and combined by four strangle moons through the 2.4 inches reflector in the winter in 1966. A 6 inches reflector will make you privy to nearly all of the planet's secrets. When magnified at 150 times or higher, the four Galilean moons lose their star-like appearance and show this that range in size from 1.0 to 1.7 current operations. Ganymede also casts the largest shadow on the planet's cloud tops when it transits in front of Jupiter. The shadow transits are visible at least once a week, with a double transits, 2 months casting shadows simultaneously, occurring once or twice a month. Ganymede's shadow looks like a bullet hole, while little, that is more like resemble a pinprick. Moons also fade away and then reappears over several minutes when they enter and exit Jupiter's shadow during eclipse. Or a moon may be occulted by the Jovian disk and hover, and the planet is like a pill before fading from sight. As with the most moons and planets, the Galilean moons orbit Jupiter around its equator. We do see their orbits almost exactly each on, but as with so much in astronomy, there is a cycle for viewing the edge on each of Jupiter's moons. This particular cycle is 6 years ago. That is, every 6 years we view Jupiter's equator and the moon's orbiting about it is equator at the most each arm. The next eclipse series of Callisto, wherever it is, the moon actually passed behind Jupiter, start on November and the end of August 2020, to present a total of 61 eclipses. After that, the next eclipse series will occur from May 29, 25 to June 7, 2028 to feature 67 eclipses. On July 13 to 14, 2020, Jupiter is at opposition when the Earth passes directly between Jupiter and the Sun. Opposition is the middle of the best time of the year to see the planet, since that is when the planet is up and viewable all night, and it is generally closest for the year. This year, Jupiter is peak opposition from July 13 to 14, 2020. If you get a chance, grab some binoculars or small telescope and go see Jupiter Galilean month with your eyes. The moon and 5 planets will be visible without a telescope on July 19, 2020. Before sunrise on July 19, 5 planets, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn, and the crescent moon will all be visible in the sky at the same time. And the 5 planets and crescent moon will simultaneously be visible to the naked eye 45 minutes before sunrise on Sunday, July 19. They will be curves across the morning sky, so you will want to find a spot with clear horizons in the east, northeast, and the southwest. How do you recognize which planet is which? 2 hours before sunrise, you will already be able to spot Jupiter in the southwest sky with the ringed planet Saturn above it and to the right. The Mars, the red planet, will be visible in the southeastern horizon. Venus blazes in the eastern sky, and Mercury will be to the right of the moon, which will be very low in the east north. Although you don't need a telescope, a pair of binoculars might help you spot the moon, Mercury, and Jupiter because of how low they will be in the sky. If you are looking for a helpful degree measurement or want to know what to set up your telescope for a closer look. With a total of 79 known moons, including 4 large moons known as the Galilean satellite, Jupiter almost qualifies as a solar system unto itself. Most of the moons of Jupiter are small, with about 60 of the satellites being less than 6.2 miles in diameter. The number of moons changes fairly frequently, with the 79 moon being reportedly. Most of the moons were discovered in the late 1970s and later a result of several explorations by automated satellites. Not only is Jupiter the largest planet in the solar system, it is also the most massive at more than 300 times the mass of Earth. Its size plays a role in the number of moons orbiting Jupiter because there is a large area of gravitational stability around it to support many moons. Jupiter also has the strongest magnetic field of any planets, so anything passing near it, such as an asteroid, is either destroyed by gravitational tides or captured into its orbit. Earth only has one moon because it lacks the strong gravitational field and mass necessary to hold another satellite in orbit. The moons of Jupiter have orbits periods ranging from 7 hours to almost 3 Earth years. Some of the orbits are nearly circular, while the moons farthest from Jupiter have more irregular orbits. The outer moons orbit in the opposite direction in which Jupiter spins, which is unusual and indicated the moons were asteroids that were sucked into Jupiter's orbit after the initial system was formed. Galilean moons. In January 1610, they set the moon numerically as 1, 2, 3, and 5. The numerical system for naming the moons lasted for a few centuries until determined that simply using number as a naming device would be confusing and impractical as more moons were discovered. Galileo's discovery was a pivotal point in the history of astronomy as the observation and that not all celestial bodies revolve around the Earth. Until that time, Earth was thought to be the center of the universe. At satellite, the 4 Galilean and 4 smaller moons are closer to the planet and provide the dust that make up Jupiter's rings. The closest of the Galilean moons to Jupiter is Lo, the first moon to be discovered by Galileo. The satellite's distant feature it is volcanoes, making it the only celestial body in the solar system beside Earth to have volcanic activity. This moon also has sulfur dioxide snowflakes, leading to its characterization as a moon of fire and ice. Lo has an iron or iron sulfide core and a brown silicate outer layer, which gives it a splotchy orange, yellow, black, red, and white appears. Moving outward from Jupiter is Europa, while slightly smaller than Earth Moon. It is still one of the largest bodies in the solar system, but the smallest of the Galilean satellites. Cracked and streaked across the entire ice surface, which is marked with very few equators. Europe has a high degree of reflectivity, making it among the brightest moons in the solar system. At 20 to 180 million years old, the surface is fairly young. It is possible that an extensive ocean beneath the surface harbored life. Ganymede is the third Galilean moon from Jupiter and the largest of the four. This low-density moon is about the size of Mercury but has about half the mass. Its outstanding characteristic is that it is the only moon to have its own magnetic field. The satellite's iron core is topped off by a thick crust that is mostly ice. 40% of the surface of Ganymede is covered by highly cratered dark regions, and the remaining 60% is covered by a light groove terrain, which form intricate patterns across Ganymede. Callisto, the fourth and the fastest of the Galilean moons from Jupiter, it is the most heavily cratered object in the solar system. The moon's landscape has essentially remained unchanged since its formation, which has garnered much interest among scientists. It is about the size of Mercury but very low in density. It is also experienced the least impact of Jupiter's magnetic field, as its orbit is the farthest from the planet and beyond Jupiter's primary radiation belt. The lunar rocks samples collected on the Apollo missions are old enough to verify the normally accepted 4.51 billion year figure for the moon's age, but that it can be calculated by looking back to the very first moment of our nearest celestial neighbor. According to the commonly accepted hypothesis, the moon was formed from the debris of a collision between Earth and a small planet it called Theia, sweeping out molten rock that eventually solidified into one whole body that began orbiting Earth. That means the rock that makes up the moon came from Earth and can be used to date it. With some sophisticated modeling, the new study suggests the moon was created when Earth was almost fully formed. The result modeling suggests that the young Earth was hit by a protoplanet some 140 million years after the birth of the solar system 4.567 billion years ago. According to calculations, this happened 4.425 billion years ago with an uncertainty of 25 million years, and the moon was born. The model runs by Maurice and her colleagues looked at the two-time scale, how old the Earth was when they hit it, and how long the moon's massive magma ocean took to cool after it had begun to solidify. That second process took around 200 million years from start to finish. Simulation based on how the moon silicated mineral may have evolved over time lead the research to their final moon age of 4.425 billion years. The new analysis goes into serious level of detail and show just how many factors needs to be taken into account. How holes puncture in the lunar surface may have affected the speed at which the moon cooled down, for example, and how deep the original ocean of magma may have been. By comparing the measured composition of the moon rocks with the predicted composition of the magma ocean from our model, we were able to trace the evolution of the ocean back to its starting point, the time at which the moon was formed. Dating the moon takes a lot of smart guesswork, and that means we are probably going to be hearing much more about the age of the moon in the year ahead. Future crowded mission to the moon will be able to collect more lunar rock samples and could hopefully plug some of remaining gaps in our knowledge. This is not the only recent study exploring that mysterious unknown. It was only 3 years ago that the age of the moon was pushed back some 140 million years, while more recent research suggests the moon is older still. These corrections seem huge compared to the time we spent alive, but the adjustments are much smaller in the grand scheme of solar system history, and we should expect more to come as our understanding evolves. However, the new estimate match up rather neatly with the period when it is that Earth is metallic format. Late in the geological development of our own planet, it also fits in with the timeline of previous research into damage to asteroid damage that may have been caused by the Earth-Athia collision. The convergence of these independent estimates not only provide a robust and precise edge for the moon forming impact, but also consistently link this event to the differentiation of Earth and dynamical evolution of the inner solar system. So, definition about the moon. The moon is an astronomical body orbiting Earth, as it is only natural satellite. It is the fifth largest satellite in the solar system, and by far the largest among planetary satellites relative to the size of the planet that it is orbit it is primarily.